In this real-side experience, I found myself wandering in an open countryside area, accompanied by a couple of individuals that I once knew here on the physical, but had not seen in the longest time. These were individuals with no interest whatsoever in becoming more aware, recognizing their real awareness and the all is. Although, as things stand, the guides have approached everyone on the real side. But, as is always the case, the personal self on the physical level must decide to want to take on this journey of the recognition of the true reality life is, in conjunction with the real self. As we proceeded, we came across what seemed to be a collection of abandoned books, just laying on the ground by a fence. My companions would examine these books and consider them to be of no consequence, and would amuse themselves by determining how far they could hurl them. I, however, recognized these books as having significance. My real awareness sensed their value. As I retrieved the books, it seemed there were 3 or 4 different titles, but many copies of each. As I gathered them up in my arms, I impressed upon my companions the importance of the books they had so readily dismissed, and they would now be in agreement as to their value. I insisted that we must transport these books somewhere, and invited the 2 individuals to accompany me. They would willingly do so, and as we proceeded along through the country area, the scene switched, and we would find ourselves confronted by a kind of military checkpoint. It appeared to have been established to prevent the passage and transportation of these books past this point, and so we considered ingenious ways to do just this, various means of concealing them, that they would be delivered unnoticed past this checkpoint and beyond. We also knew that various other checkpoints were in operation, designed for this very reason, to prevent these books from getting through. Interestingly, each checkpoint was manned by children. Seems we were successful in bypassing the various checkpoints by whatever means we did, as the scene switched to a kind of market area, and there we would rendezvous with an elderly man who had still further valuable books available on his market stall. This elderly man had a strong air of real awareness, and my impression was that he was a guide. The experience would end here, and I would suggest the books represented awareness, and initially the two individuals I was with throughout this experience could not recognize their real awareness, or that they even had a real awareness, due to they being rather personal self-immersed people. They were oblivious to how everything is about awareness. Everything is awareness, and anything not supportive and affording enhancement of the recognition of the real awareness we all are has no value. They were swift to discard the awareness representing books as irrelevant, until I was able to impress upon them their significance, the importance of real awareness. Evidently, I must have gotten through to them, and they were willing then to accompany me on a journey of delivering awareness, or the real knowledge that pertains to the importance and recognition of the real awareness, and the isness that it is a part of. The individuals guarding the gate may well have represented dark force resistance to this super knowledge being known. The fact they were in the form of children may simply have demonstrated their childlike, rudimentary awarenesses, or perhaps these checkpoints were more representing the personal selves of the two individuals I was accompanying, the ones who now had recognized the importance and actuality of their real awareness, but still had to get through their personal selves, their attitudes, and all that makes up resistance to the recognition of the real awareness and standing real with the true reality. As Rebisar said, the personal self is our main problem, and that which stands in the way to recognizing the free beings of real light we all are. So these checkpoints may have represented broadly the various parts of the personal self, the emotional, mental vehicles, or maybe key attitudes, assumptions, considerations, and convictions that represent the biggest blocks for these two individuals. The children manning the checkpoints could well have represented, perhaps, each of the 5 vehicles of the little self, for the personal self is very often demonstrated as a smaller version of ourselves on the real side. So it follows that each of our 5 personal vehicles could very well be demonstrated this way as little people, or in this case, children. So very possibly these 2 people were being confronted with that which presents as personal self-resistance to the real awareness recognition. The real awareness represented by the books we were trying to get through the personal self checkpoints, and having gotten so far with perhaps releasing that which presents as this personal self-resistance, the idea agreements and attachments, we would come to a guide who could determine that these 2 individuals were ready for the opportunity and ready to see more, for the guide would have a stall full of more books, as there always is more to see and be, always more to be aware of, for the journey to recognizing the is a lengthy one, and an endless recognition at that.
That's great, Kevin. That's good. Yeah, what I saw was the awareness in the books, his references, and these books are Dwayne's books, your books. Kevin has 2 books out there. I've got a couple on the real side. I saw them finished. I'm working on here in physical to finish one about my own journey to meet Dwayne and the new presentation. Another one, book of quotes that I did. I took notes for 4 or 5 years, and I have journals full of notes from the Skype meetings we had in the old days when we used to Skype every day. I mean, almost 7 days a week for a while. And then I remember Kelsey had an experience with her book on the real side. It was this huge, huge. It was a huge book that people were looking at. What I remember, it was just a huge, enormous huge book. Her book that was showing, and people on the real side are reading the stuff too. But it's really important that we get stuff out here. Just keep rolling it out so people have access to it, an opportunity to get to it. And that's why we encourage people also to do the Facebook, share Facebook information, and also the websites, if you're into that, to get your own website, Dwayne the Great Writer website. We can share through that. There's all kinds of ways just in writing, the writing that is done, that we do, especially Dwayne's writing, get it out there as a reference for people to look at, again, to have the opportunity to become more aware. I was just on the YouTube and I found this. This is another example of just sharing these two women who are environmental scientists. They call their nonprofit Rigs to Reefs, and they're basically converting dismantled or disused oil rigs. There's 5,000 of these in the world or more, all through the oceans. The ones that they're discontinued, they turn them into reefs for the sea life. Somehow you'd think, there's a lot of pollution that come from these, potentially these oil rigs, but right around the oil rigs themselves is a hot spot, and there's lots of activity with the steel and the concrete, whatever they use there. Somehow it attracts them, gives them places to hide and to generate more of their species. So these women contract, or they're consultants, and they contract out to these oil rig companies and others to maybe cut, I don't know, maybe 85 feet of the top off, and then so ships can pass through, and then the bottom parts left there, and then the sea life can establish themselves there. It's a way of it's one way of utilizing something that's iffy to something of a benefit. That's what Dwayne talks about all the time, is like we can always turn anything, practically anything, into a benefit if we're creative enough. So these women are doing this, and they, I sent a message to them just saying, introducing ourselves to them. And you can do this too if you find somebody out there, individuals or organizations that are doing something of a benefit for the planet. Introduce what we're doing to them, and we can partner with them in some way, if not now, later on. But at least we're getting the word out. What you could use could be weresearch.org, that website there, www.weeresearch.org, that has like a business plan and some of the things we're doing environmentally. So again, everything can be utilized if we just see it that way. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. You want to go on?
Yeah, I was as you were saying about seeing on the real side the books that individuals would be one day writing. I remember when I first originally found the new presentation 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, I think it was November 2017. I remember some of my earlier dreams, I had some real side experiences where I was writing some books, and And I remember I was in communication with Dwayne at the same time, and I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but it was as though as I was writing them, he was giving me some advice and encouragement, and as I was doing so. And later on, as I would write my own real side experiences books, it would suggest very much that I was having a future view of the time several years later I would put my dream books together. The first book was the experience from a certain point to another point, and then I wanted to go back and do the older experience. So the second book actually I called The Early Escapades, and then the third book carried on from where the first book left off to the current day. And then yeah, I've put them on my website as well. I've got links to all the PDFs of my dream books there. And I also a little similarly to you, Val, where you've been constructing a book of quotes over the years, what I've been doing is I've been going through a lot of the African dialogue shows, and I've been converting them into books as well. And I've got two PDF versions of those. I started writing out effectively. It was just the questions that Charles posed, and then the responses that Dwayne gave, and I put them in a couple of books as well. And I started, I think it was January of 2019. My intention was to complete it where the Charles show ended, which was I believe was June of this year. So yeah. But yeah, books are definitely a good resource, because the problem with all the technology is that there's always the risk at one point, if everything is online and digital and floating around in cyberspace, that if there is a situation where something or suddenly pulls the plug or the technology is unavailable, then all that information is lost. So I do think it is very important to convert a lot of it into written form and have it available as books. So yes.
Yeah, for now it works, since we got the technology and it's still somewhat open, not censored completely, but they do need this technology to market themselves still. They need that to do what they're doing in terms of like indoctrinating people. So they keep it out there in some respect. But yeah, Kevin's done a lot. She's constantly putting out stuff, enormous amount of work and stuff and time Kevin's put into it. It's great. I saw these books that I did on the real side, and that motivated me to say, okay, I better get going in the physical, because they're there on the real side, so I got catch up here in the physical and get on it. These are all examples for everybody to see how you can just take anything that you see during your daily life, and turn it into something of a way to market what we're doing and to help people become more aware with it. So it can be anything you do or like or are into, and just turn it. If you just have that intent to see it that way, that how to relate what you do every day, what you're thinking and your attitudes and everything, to relate it to this isness, this reality, and then what we're doing with the new presentation and all this that we're doing to environmentally and to get it out there. We're going to create a business plan for the farmers here, which is idea. We're going to help them with organic farming methods, and in this case, drilling water wells for their irrigation and fire control purposes. We just had a fire up here east of us in the mountains, and they called the fire trucks. But if you don't have a well or some way of accessing water, then you're kind of in trouble. Fire trucks can't get here. So if each farmer had a well, it'd be a lot better for them all the way around. And there's water around here. We've got a 180-foot deep well here near us. I think closer to the ocean, you get into salt, but over here and up east of us to the mountains, you can get maybe 200 feet into some clean water. So that's just another thing, another activity And like Dwayne says, just do. Just keep the idea is to do something. And it could be the littlest thing, just like on Facebook, share our stuff on Facebook if you have a Facebook page. So that's easy. If you don't know how to do it, contact one of us.